What's up, Yang Gang? Oh, you thought you were gonna get rid of me? You're never gonna get rid of me. The election was rigged. So how is everybody surviving on those stimuluses out there? Look, stop, stop. He can't stand these masks. I don't know why that they freak him out. I guess really in actuality, Donald Trump freaks us all out. How is everybody doing out there, Yang Gang? Look, we've got some people on already. Vaughn, how are you? Good to see you. You're always here. Well, today we've got a very special guest, and we're going to talk to Pastor Steve. And I'm just going to bring him on right now because I've been waiting for this for a minute now. Pastor, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Russell?
I'm doing good. Do you know why I'm so excited to have you on?
Why?
Because something that's near and dear to my heart is a search for truth. And in that search for truth, Christianity played a huge part in that, and the Bible played a huge part in that search for truth. And it's awesome to actually have somebody on who is spiritually minded, because I feel like that's something that's forgotten a lot in America today, is that spiritual side of us. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think obviously it's a huge part of my life, and really it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with the message that Andrew Yang was talking about, because when I heard him on Joe Rogan podcast, I was like, that's what I want to do. I mean, this is how we make the stuff that Jesus was talking about a reality. I mean, not everything I'm talking, but that stuff about taking care of the poor and anyway.
And
So just
you're exactly right, and that's exactly where I was, because for I've been homeless. I know what it's like, and I've been on that end of the spectrum. And the fact of the matter is, as I've said many times on this show, most homeless people don't want to be homeless, believe it
yeah,
or not. And
yeah, exactly.
it's coming from a Christian background, you see all these things, and that you're exactly right. It's like, if you want to talk about what would Jesus do, Jesus
Hmm.
would help all of those poor people. That's what Jesus would do. He would
Yeah,
help them.
yeah.
And it's so frustrating to see. We had one of the Andrew Yang events was in Portland,
Oh yeah.
and just the sheer number of homeless people in Portland is heartbreaking.
Hmm. Oh, you know, there is a big issue of homelessness where I live in Iowa, but I mean it gets harder and harder though the nicer the weather gets. Um, and you don't see, like, okay, in Des Moines, I took my confirmation kids, my seventh and eighth graders, for several years. They have this thing where they clean up homeless camps. And what it is just like, if you're homeless, you don't think about the fact that you don't have a place to put your trash. Like, if you, I mean, you just, it's something that people just don't think about. Like, what do you do with the leftover burger wrapper? What do you do with the leftover? I mean, if you get shampoo, what do you do with the bottle? Like, what do you do with this stuff? You just like throw it nearby, because, well, anyway, so we went and we cleaned up the homeless camps, or some of them, right? But what I noticed is that you'd be driving around, there'd be this like little wooded area in Des Moines, just like some trees, and we'd turn into the trees, and there'd be like 6 families living in that little wooded area, and then we'd drive the next, like, there's just a few trees, like we turn in, and that's where everybody was. It's like, man, I just didn't ever notice. I didn't know, where there are all these people living in Des Moines. Nobody would see them because they just see, oh, what pretty trees, like, they just have no idea that there's like this whole group of people living there. And it gets worse the farther south you get, because you can live outside. It's not snowy. It's, I mean, you can live in your car because you're probably not going to freeze to death, because the weather is nicer. But I mean, even up north, it gets pretty tough.
Yeah, it's that way in North Carolina too. It's
Sure.
you'll go by, and it's like you said, you'll see a little stand of trees, and behind those trees is just this whole group of it's a homeless community, and
Yeah.
it's really really sad because it doesn't have to be that way. And
No.
I was like you. I saw Andrew Yang on Joe. I was like, fuck. Finally, somebody gets it. Finally, somebody
Yeah.
understands what it's like to be the broke folk and
Mhm.
to want to help that section of society, because the fact of the matter is most of us are only a step or two away from that actually being a
Mhm.
reality in our own lives. And it's not through any choice of our own, it's just through circumstances that get screwed up, and you're left holding this bag that you can't get out of. You're constantly trying to put out fire after fire as a poor person and just hold your life together. and,
Yeah.
and it only takes one step to be in that situation yourself. And when you see someone like Andrew Yang come along, that was one of the huge reasons that my wife and I were just like, you know what, we got to start this YouTube channel, and we've got to try to what back then we were talking about yanging people. This was the early
Yeah.
days of Andrew Yang. This was when before the Clyburn fish fry. This was before,
Yeah.
and we were going into places that like our local where we got our name tags done, right? Our little office max. And we were in there yanging the people who worked there, and we were making videos about it because
Yeah.
we believed so strongly that this was the guy who was finally gonna to make things right in America again. Because
Yeah.
I've seen over the years that I've lived, and I'm 45 years old, um, just a degradation of society, and everything is just getting worse and worse and worse. We're getting left behind. And finally this guy comes along and he's like, hey, we can fix this. Here's how we fix it. And he
Yeah.
started talking about universal basic income, and I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. Why wouldn't you do that? That
I
makes so
know.
much sense. You give a homeless person $1,000, now all of a sudden, guess what? They can go take a shower somewhere if they need to.
Yeah.
They can buy clothes to apply for a job interview. Wow,
Hmm.
that makes so much sense. Let's do this. We can eradicate poverty in America.
Yeah. I have this picture. I hadn't thought about this guy for a long time, but I went to the University of Nebraska Lincoln, so Lincoln, Nebraska, and big old campus. It's a state college, and like in between, well, they have this huge library, and outside the library there was like I don't know how big, a huge like vent, like where all the steam would come up from underneath, and there's this guy, the homeless guy, who just laid on the vent, like in the middle, like with all the steam coming out every winter. Like, I mean, it'd be all the snow, freezing cold. Everybody is walking around with their huge coats. And this walking around, this guy who was just laying on the steam vent. Okay. And every once in a while, people would drop off a hamburger or drop off a blanket or a coat. But most everybody, including me, we just walked around him, because he was just a part of the scenery. He was just, because what could you really do? You could give him a hamburger, but you knew that wasn't going to feed him very long. You couldn't really bring him home because you had your roommate at your, or whatever. It's like, what do you give him? $50? What's that going to do? It just feel, and so you just don't do anything. I mean, that's my guess. You just feel like you're helpless. You don't really like this. You don't want to watch this every day, this guy suffer. But what else are you going to do? And that's why when I heard about universal basic income and when he explained how it could actually happen, that it wasn't just a pipe dream, I just thought if we could help people, like really help them, why wouldn't we do that? Like, I mean, because I feel like, so instead of putting all my time trying to, I mean, I was praying, but I wanted to do something too. Right? Besides asking God, I felt like this is God telling me you should do this. This is going to make a difference, not just for one guy, but for everyone, everybody in America. It'd be amazing. Anyway, I just thought about that guy, and
Because the fact of the matter is, what people don't understand, people who have that viewpoint, is we are God's hands and feet. It's like you can sit there and you can chirp about praying and doing all this stuff, but the fact of the matter is, you got to get your ass up and you got to do something. Because
Yeah.
if you aren't God's hands and feet, then what good are you?
Yeah.
You're not doing anything.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I bring him up all the time. The book of John or James, when it talks about if you walk by somebody and it's like, oh, God bless you, you know, may you stay warm and well fed. But if you don't like feed him and make him warm, what good are you? Like, just saying God bless you isn't enough. Thoughts and prayers aren't enough. People need help, and that's what just. And we have a way to help them. I mean, Andrew helped me to see like this is possible, and I mean, it's just the math. You figure it out. We can do this. And one of the things that bothers me so much is when people fight against universal basic income by saying, well, it would undercut the welfare state. And I'm like, you've never been on welfare. I mean, if you think it's such a great situation, it's not. And that's for the people that actually are on welfare. So
Yeah, it's a whole lot of hoops that you have to jump
yeah,
through every time that you've got to recertify or do anything else.
yeah,
And you know what? So what if it did cut the welfare system?
yeah,
If it's a shit run system anyway, and
yeah,
$1,000 a month is better, like why wouldn't you take that? And the way
exactly.
Andrew had proposed it, if it wasn't better, you didn't have to take it. You could stay on the
Yeah.
programs that you. It just made so much sense. And so,
Mm-hmm.
how frustrating is it for you to like sit there and see that one, we could have had Andrew Yang, right?
Yeah, we could
We
have.
could have had
Uh-huh.
Andrew Yang, but more than that, just to see the ineptness of the people that we have right now in power.
Yeah, it's really frustrating. I mean, I I just don't understand it. I try to understand it. I want to understand because see, like before Andrew, um, you know, I couldn't. I would just spend time in my office. I'd be mad. I'd be mad about like why has people voted for Trump? Most of my church, you know, voted for Donald Trump. Um, you know, I couldn't understand, and he helped me to see that it's not because people were racist or because of Russia or because of Hillary's emails or whatever, right? Um, it was because of the manufacturing jobs that were going away and all this stuff, and it helped me make sense of it. So the thing is, like, I need to understand how it is that our Senate, most of our government, thinks that people can survive on this what $600 for or like $1,200 for 9 months or whatever. Like, how is it that they think that this is okay? I just don't understand it.
Then you know, you got people like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because
Ugh.
it's not just Donald Trump. It's not. It's like Andrew said. Donald Trump is just he's just a microcosm of a much bigger problem. He was
Yeah.
brought on by the people like Biden and the Clintons and whoever else has been in there for all these years. The establishment, what we call the establishment, regardless, left and right. That's what brought Donald Trump on. Was people were just fed up with both sides, and they just wanted somebody to go in and stir the pot. Well, he did that. We got what we asked for. But the
And
problem is, we ended up getting another establishment guy. We ended
yeah.
up getting Joe Biden, he's voted for every war. He's voted for I mean, he was an architect of the crime bill. It's like both sides are just so full of crap and so corrupt and
Yeah.
working for the corporations and not America. And then you have Andrew Yang comes along and he says, hey, guess what, guys? We got this thing. It's called democracy dollars, right? You
Yeah.
give
No.
these democracy dollars to people, and it'll wash out the corporate money in Washington, and it'll give the power back to the people. And you're like, this dude right here really gets it. He gets how the game's played. You
Yeah.
know,
It's tough to watch it now, though. Like, it really is. And one of my favorite things I've been doing, I'm going to be making another video soon on my channel, but I've been talking to people who supported Donald Trump in 2020. So not just 2016, but 2020. They chose him again or for the first time and why it was. And, you know, it really helps me to understand that most everybody I feel like is, well, I don't know if we're all on the same page, but I feel like people have similar values. At least people want their government to get things done. Like, when you see them not be able to agree on a stimulus bill, like that kind of stuff pisses people off. So like I was talking to the guy before, this guy was named Jeremy, and he's like, the reason he voted for Donald Trump is because the guy gets things done, and he doesn't care how he gets it done, and he didn't care what he talked like, and he didn't care even if it was not always ethically, or if that was ethically questionable. At least he got something done, and that was good enough for him. It's like at least he did stuff, and it felt like, even though I struggle with, I think how you do things matters, but I can see why people want that. They want our government to do something, and just watching them fight isn't that great.
It's funny that you say that because now I'm from, I lived for a large portion of my life in North Carolina, and I picked up a saying growing up there. And my dad used to tell me, he was like, do something if it's wrong. And that's kind of where we're at. And it's a
Yeah,
sad state of affairs. But God, can y'all just do something? Like something. It's like it's never to the benefit of the American people. It's like,
yeah,
oh, we're gonna pass this stimulus, and it seems like all these companies get these large portions of money, but it's like, do we really see that as Americans? You know what I'm saying? Do
yeah,
we see that? And I don't think that we do. I mean, maybe some people do, and they get to keep their job for an extra however long, and
yeah.
that's great. But it seems to me like it would be a whole lot better if they would just directly help the people.
Yeah. This is something, and I'm sure people won't necessarily agree with me, but I was just thinking about this the other day while I was watching both sides sort of twiddle their thumbs on the stimulus bill, and all this. And I thought, you remember the most recent Supreme Court judge, Amy Coney Barrett, when she was nominated, right? And by the way, I mean, I think she's a wonderful woman. I really do. I didn't think she was like the worst person in the world. But think about how the Democratic senators and how everybody was like, I mean, they were so mad, right? And they were speaking it passionately about how horrible this would be if they sent this through this nomination and passed, right? But like, but that's a political thing. I mean, now when it comes to like feeding people around the country, right? I mean, like when people's lives are on the line, I don't know. It feels like they're not really that interested. Because it to me, now I know that the Supreme Court matters and it's lifetime and all this stuff, and it affects people in many varied ways. But I don't know. I want as much passion right now. Like I want people to be like, we need to get money to people now. It's been 9 months, or whatever, since this last stimulus. Things are getting worse. It's going to be Christmas time. We want people to stay home or whatever. We got to get them some money. And they're like, well, maybe we'll just take vacation instead. Like, I want them as passionate now as they are about all that other stuff.
But you know what I think it is really is like the American people are so beaten down.
Yeah.
They're as a broke person, like we was talking about before, you've got so many fires that you're putting out, like, and you're possibly not able to pay your rent. You're looking homelessness in the face. You're scrambling, trying to find funds to probably maybe get into another place, but then you're going to have first month's rent, last month's rent. You're going to have a
Yeah.
deposit. You're going to have all the money to get things turned on. So you're staring homelessness in the face. It does not cross your mind. You know what? I should probably pick up the phone and call my congressman.
No, yeah. Exactly. Totally. There's this lady, I think she was from North Carolina, that came and talked about, she was doing all these workshops on poverty, and by poverty, she was talking about deep poverty, like and generational poverty. And then all of a sudden her house burnt down and she was like homeless. I mean, like she didn't have a she was out on the streets. She like all the stuff she had learned. Now she had to go to those people and say, now how did you survive? Anyway, so she was finding a way to live. And but what she said is like every day she just needed to figure out how to get through today, and maybe the next couple days. She wasn't thinking about anything more than that. I mean, it's a crisis just to get through. Like she was paying attention to the sales and all this stuff, and it was interesting to hear it from her because she was like she was studying it, and now all of a sudden she was living it, and she recognized that you got to have a lot of respect for people who are poor, who are really poor, because the fact that they even survive takes a lot of courage and a lot of intelligence, and just to be able to find a way. It's pretty amazing, really.
Yeah, it's really bad because especially when you get into these larger cities,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, because you have like like somebody was telling us, it was like, man, it sucks so bad because if you do get something, let's say you do get a phone, well then you got like crackheads trying to rob you and stuff, and they're trying to take all your food and everything else. They're trying to take your money, anything of value that they can
Mm-hmm.
find. So it's like this whole other life. It's like, man, it's literally a fight for survival every single freaking day. And
Well,
it's
and
like,
by the
wow,
way, I've
how
never
do
been
we,
homeless. Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say. By the way, I've never been homeless. I've never been in that bad of a situation ever. I mean, I've had to have assistance programs and stuff, but I've never been like really down and out. It's just I've met a lot of people who are, and I'm just trying to share their perspective. So please don't think that I've ever been in that situation. I'm pretty privileged when it comes right down to it. What were you
Hey,
saying?
I don't know. I mean, you threw me off track with that.
Sorry.
It's all good. We've all been, but that's just it. That's what makes the world such a beautiful place because we have different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and you can take things from your perspective, and you can look and you can say, okay, well, listen, we do have a problem in this area, and we do need to address it. And maybe from my perspective, I can figure things out. It takes all of us to solve this problem.
Yeah.
And then that's what pisses me off so bad because when you have Andrew Yang and you do have finally somebody who is the leader of the quote rebellion, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? He's the leader of the rebellion against everything that's fair. To me. That's who he is to me.
Yeah.
It frustrates me really, really bad, especially now that I see that he's potentially running for mayor of New York. Where do you fall on that?
Well, I just made a video about it. I mean, I don't think he should. I mean, I guess maybe it's a selfish thing because I don't live in New York. And I saw that Nell was on here. I mean, he lives in New York, so that's awesome. That he could help a lot of people, and that's why I could imagine him doing it because he's just like, how can I help people? And so I could see him running for mayor of New York. But I don't know. I feel like it risks undercutting universal basic income for the whole country is what I'm worried about. Because like it or not, he's a symbol right now.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang is a symbol of universal basic income for the country, and the whole country likes him. I mean, he has a positive image. I mean, Republicans really like him where I'm from, and Democrats are getting to like him more. And I just worry that if he gets wrapped up in just the local politics and the local political scene, I mean, maybe he can help New Yorkers, which would be awesome. But I just worry that it's gonna make it harder for the rest of the country to get it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just me, but most of the Yang Gang it appears really supports it. And I mean, I'd support him. It's just I wish that it were different. I mean, even if he was running for the mayor of someplace in Iowa, right? I would still rather he didn't. Even if I could get universal basic income, I feel like it'd be better to get it for the whole country. So
See, that's just it. I'm with you because I think it would be the worst political move that he could ever make. And I know he says he's not a politician, but he kind of is right now. And like you
yeah,
said, he's a symbol to everybody that hey, here's this pristine idea, and I'm this pristine guy. I've got no baggage. I'm not bringing
yeah,
anything. You know, you win New York City, and now all of a sudden you've got baggage. No matter how much good you do, you are going to be trashed. It's going
yeah.
to be awful, and it's going to be the worst political move that you could freaking make. And I feel like anybody who is close to him should be urging him not to do this because there is no upside to this and a whole bunch of downside. Because the fact of the matter is, the DNC already has their little darling picked out who they want to be the next
Yeah.
president, and that's Kamala Harris. And they're going to support her, and Andrew Yang is not going to get another fair shake again.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you risk all this goodwill that you have built up, right? Why would you risk all that by becoming? I just can't see it. It's to me, it's a horrible, horrible move.
Well, and that's why I'm afraid that he's going to do it because he's not a. I mean, he really isn't a politician. I hate. He's kind of bad at it. Like he doesn't think about. Like I really think he just wants to help people. That's the thing. I don't think he's thinking, well, what is this going to look like 4 years down the line, or what's the best for my long-term political uh, possibilities. I really just think he's like, I don't know if I can wait 4 more years to help people. Like I feel like he wants to do it right now. And I mean, that's why, even though I don't think he should, I kind of think he will. At least he'll try it because he's just a good guy. And um, it just, it feels like that's the kind of thing he would do. I wish he would understand what an example he is. I mean, I don't want to oversell it, but I mean, because he's not to this level. But when I think about Martin Luther King Jr., I mean, that guy obviously is pretty big deal. But like everybody, when you think about him, you think about his, I mean, obviously equal rights, but civil rights, but his work to end poverty. I mean, he was this example of that. And when he got assassinated, I mean, then it just sort of people just, I mean, they talked about it a little bit longer, but that person that was pushing it forward was gone. So, I mean, it was after that when they were looking at UBI in the Nixon administration and stuff, but it's like they didn't have that voice pushing it forward. And I'm certainly not trying to compare the two, but it reminds me a little bit of Andrew, how you got this person that's always pushing. When Andrew Yang talks, you know what he's going to talk about. You know he's going to talk about it. But now from that point on, it's going to be like he won't really be able to represent the whole country anymore. He'll just be representing New York. Anyway, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, I'm with you, man. And that in the I'm afraid that the media is going to spin it, because of the DNC and the power structure that is, and no, those people do not want to lose their power,
Yeah.
and that's why they have everybody in line all the time. You got to take this narrative over here. You got to take this narrative over here, and Andrew takes that job, and they're going to stonewall him left and right. They are, and he's going to fail at certain things in New York City, and they're going to point to those certain things, and they're going to be like, "Look, he's a failure there. He couldn't even institute it in New York City."
Yeah.
What makes you think that he could be the president of the United States if he can't even get it done in New York City?
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like I said, I don't think most people agree with us, but like I am completely in agreement with you. I don't want him to do it. There is so much, and the thing is, he's proved that he can do so much without having a government job. Like, I mean, from my perspective, and this is just me, like if he never becomes president, but he finds a way to get universal basic income happen, to me, like he's a hero. Like he's and then he can work for ranked choice voting too. Like if you're not, if he's not a secretary of commerce, if he's not the mayor of New York, he can work on all these important things. I mean, you can lobby for democracy dollars. I mean, you can get stuff done, it seems to me, even if you're not a politician. And it kind of gives you more clout somehow. I mean, he can work on all these things. So I hate for him to pigeonhole himself.
Yeah, and look, Nell
But I mean,
Nell says,
what
well,
if he
what if
can't?
Andrew can get it done?
I
Well,
know he might.
now the thing is, I was talking a while ago about us having sayings down in the South, and one of them was, you know, do something if it's wrong. Well, we have another one down there in the South too. If it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. And the fact of the matter is, there is way too much downside. There's way more downside than there is upside in this move for the future. But I think it's like you said, Stephen. I think it's he's just such a genuine person, and so he just wants to help people. And that kind of pisses me off because, I am a chess player, and chess says that you play to win the game. You got to play long term. You've got to board. You've got to, you've got, and this is just a bad move, man, because you are exposing your flanks. You're exposing your flanks, and it's just a bad move.
Yeah, but like Nell said, what if he can? And this is what, like, as a Christian, like I don't know God's plans. Like if God if God wants Andrew to run for mayor of New York, who am I to stand in the way? Like I don't know, maybe that's where God wants him to be. I don't know. I mean, when I was deciding originally to support Andrew Yang publicly, it wasn't the smartest idea. Like my wife really questioned whether I should, because I really never publicly talked about politics. I mean, not I never supported one
Kid
person.
came out of the
Yeah,
closet.
I was like, I mean, it was a big deal for me. It
And
wasn't
now
a good
I win my
idea.
math every day.
Yeah, it wasn't a smart choice. But I prayed and prayed, and God was like, "You've got to do this." So I was like, "All right, whether it's a smart idea or not, I've got to go do this." And hey, if God's forcing Andrew to get involved or encouraging him to, I don't want to stand in the way. But from my perspective, I wish he'd find something else to do.
So now the whole reason that we even got together, you
Yeah.
know Peter Yang.
Oh yeah, he is like one of my favorite fans. He's always there to listen to my YouTube channel.
He is awesome. He is one of the most incredible people that I've never met.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
it, anyway, he was the whole reason that we ended up getting together to have this conversation. And me and him were talking last night, and he mentioned that you actually introduced Andrew at an event.
Yeah, at Greenfield, Iowa. And I was so happy because I was working, I was really trying to get all of the volunteers in Des Moines to get him to come to Greenfield, because I believed that if we could get Andrew to go there, it's like he would seal the deal. Because I was going and canvassing, and they'd always refer to Obama, who went to Greenfield, and how they met Obama, and that's why they voted for him. And I was like, and they really liked Andrew, but they didn't really know him yet. So anyway, when he was there, I wish I had a little more lead time. I mean, they only told me like a couple days before, and so I was like, I don't know if I can tell everybody, but I got as many people as I could to get there. So it was
In
pretty fun.
hindsight, what do you think was because I have my own, beliefs as to like what went wrong.
Sure.
What do you think went wrong?
Well, I mean, I don't think it was one single thing, personally. Um, I wouldn't have focused on Iowa. I would not have put all the eggs in the Iowa basket, because you do need to have that 15% I mean, you have to have a certain percent. I mean, if you only come in with 5%, then you lose all your votes. I mean, the caucus just isn't the place to do it. I would have loved to see how Andrew Yang did in South Carolina. And I guess I don't know. I just wouldn't have put all my eggs in the Iowa basket. We're not a very diverse state, and I don't know. I just that feels to me like the big problem. I mean, the other problem was just the media wasn't covering him. I mean, that's out of his control. um, but I would have. I think the longer he could have stayed, because I think the more his message would have gotten out. So I would have spread out the money so I could have stayed through South Carolina and through Nevada, and I would have wanted to make it to Super Tuesday, even if I was just getting my message, continuing to get the message out. I wish he wouldn't have dropped out after New Hampshire, but I think they just spent all their money in Iowa. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. Oh gosh, he was talking about Iowa in the caucus, and I can remember then, because I mean, if you know anything about me, is I'm a very passionate person. And
Okay.
if I wanted to so bad to be in Iowa so I could go to caucus for Andrew Yang, because I guarantee you there is no way that I would have left that building until every motherfucker in that place was an Andrew Yang fan. They'd have been screaming his name before they left. Oh my gosh. I just feel like, if you're right, he went wrong in Iowa. I really feel like he went wrong in New Hampshire too, because he just like the thing. Okay, New Hampshire, at least a lot. I guess you say there's people who are poor, but by and large, everybody's getting by okay in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And your message just doesn't ring right there. You got to
Mm-hmm.
talk to the broke folk vote. You talking
Yeah.
about giving everybody $1,000 a month? You need to head down to my neck of the woods down in South Carolina and spend your time there in North Carolina, South Carolina, states like that.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Your message resonates because everybody I know is broke. Broke
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month was a long way in helping people out. you know? And
Well,
and
yeah.
he should have stuck to the rallies. Instead of doing all them stump speeches, which were great,
Yeah.
go do those rallies like you did in Portland and like you did in New York. Because guess what? That's what fires people up. You were connecting with a group of voters who either hadn't voted before or were new voters just to vote for you because you were firing them up because finally you were talking their language. And
Yeah.
you had this momentum with these young voters, and then you spent your time in Iowa, and then you spent your time in New Hampshire, and you should have just kept talking to the young people because
Sure.
Donald Trump proved one thing: he could prove that a populist could win. If you
Mm-hmm.
were a populist, you could win. And that's what, man, when he was throwing them zingers at Donald Trump, talking about I'm an Asian man who likes math and all that
Yeah.
stuff, people dug that stuff because they wanted to see Trump get smacked a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly no politician. I don't know the right thing. I mean, he won in my precinct. I'll tell you that. Um, he won in my precinct, but I mean, I've been working since September canvassing, like, and I don't have that big of an area to canvass. I mean, I hit like every house, and I mean, I live here, so they trusted me. I've lived here like 10 years, so I mean, they knew who I was. They knew I'd never talked about politics before, but I mean, you had to have a me in like every precinct, or at least a lot of them, and I mean, it's just tough to do that in a caucus. So I mean, I don't, but I feel like somebody should have been telling him that. So he must have had a reason, and that's part of me believes that he just wanted to get the message out and that he maybe didn't expect that he would win. Now, I would like to think, considering how much I donated to the cause, that he was trying to win. But um, when I look back, I think, well, maybe he just was trying to get out the message and didn't think about the right way to win the whole thing until too late in the game. But
Yeah, no, I don't feel like he was in it just to spread the message. Although that was part of it, because if there's one thing about Andrew Yang is he's very much a competitor.
yeah,
You know, he doesn't like to show it sometimes, but he is very, very competitive, and that the competitor in him wanted to win. I
yeah,
don't
it seems
know.
like it.
I think in hindsight, he sees a lot of areas where they could have, done better. And he's already said that, if they did it again, it'd be a whole lot easier this time than it was the last time.
Well, there was one part of his stump speech that he said every time that always struck me as like, well, maybe you'll understand. But he always talks about how he was when you start a new business, when you're an entrepreneur, and people ask you, "How's it going?" and you're like, "It's going great," right? Because you need them to keep supporting you. And I always felt a little like whenever they'd ask, "How is the campaign going?" It's like, "It's going great," and I'm
Go
like,
right
"Yeah."
until
So
it's
like,
not. It
so
is.
like,
That's the harsh reality of it.
yeah.
But, it is
But it
what it
always
is. You
made
got
me a
to say
little
that it's going.
frustrated, like I wanted him. I mean, was it going great? Did they think they could win Iowa? Because they were saying they thought that they could place, and I'm like, are you just saying that now, or did you really?
Hold on, I
Because
need a source. Bro, we got breaking news.
all right,
New York Times is reporting that next week Andrew Yang will be putting in his bid for New York City mayor.
well, he must
Breaking
not be
news.
watching. Well, I'm gonna keep working for UBI.
Look, we both got this disappointed look on our face, like fuck, man.
I
And the Hill is also reporting it, so that is breaking news. Get it out there. You heard it here on the Grassroots Yang Gang channel. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for that breaking news. Woo!
Well, and the
We're
other
up there
thing
with
is
the
like,
Hill, guys. We call ourselves the Hills.
yeah.
We're from the country.
I mean, the other thing about like him being mayor of New York, if he wins, right? I mean, like how am I supposed to really support the mayor of New York? Like, I mean, it's just not quite the same message. Like when I'm talking, like if I'm wearing my math hat, you know, people are gonna be like, "Who's that?" "Oh, Andrew Yang," and they're like, "Why are you wearing Andrew Yang hat? He's the mayor of New York." Like, who cares? Like, he's not. You're from Iowa. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah,
So,
I feel you, man. It's just, it's like I don't know.
man,
I'm just like, she gave us the breaking news, and I'm just like,
yeah, yeah. But I
huh.
mean, that's you know. But a while ago, I've tried to sort of focus on the fact that it's not just the man; it's the ideas behind it. Like I started a website called ChristiansForUBI.com. And my whole goal on there, now I talk about Andrew Yang, but I really tried not to because I really want to reach out to just a group of people in a bipartisan way, and just to say, hey, this is a great idea. Even if you don't like Andrew Yang, it's a great idea and I want you to support it. So I think in my recent video, I talked about the positive about if Andrew Yang was the mayor of New York, is that maybe the rest of us would have to pick up that mantle of universal basic income or democracy dollars and run with it ourselves. I mean, it's going to kind of be reliant on somebody else to start bringing out this message. So
Yeah.
that'd be the
You know,
positive.
I'm sitting here and I'm like letting it settle. I'm letting it settle, and I'm thinking, well, that's one way to stay in the news. That's one way to stay. I mean, you are gonna be in the news every day now, because
Yeah,
if you actually win this thing, it's
yeah,
gonna be spotlights on you, buddy. It's gonna be put up or shut up. I mean, you got no excuses now. You are holding an office now. You got to get shit done.
yeah.
And walking into New York City, that's gonna be a snake trap oh my gosh, he's gonna have his work cut out for him.
Yeah. I mean, well, who was it? Somebody just posted a quote. Who was it? All right, maybe it was Eisenhower. I'm just throwing out a Lyndon Johnson. I don't know. I have some kind of quote on Twitter.
It's
They
one of them
posted
old ass dead dudes.
anyway, but it was a president. It was a president that said, the presidency is hard, but at least I'm not a mayor or something like that. And it was just the point was being a mayor at all is really hard work. So maybe the presidency would be easier than being the mayor of New York. So anyway,
He's
but
gonna be the
I'll
LeBron
support
Hayes of
him.
New York.
Yeah, I'll support him. I'll be I'll phone bank for him. I mean, I want him to win, but it's going to be hard to support him the same way I did before because he's going to be kind of pigeonholed into that one little section.
Yeah,
I
and it's
can't root
gonna
for him.
suck, man, because I'm sitting here. I'm actually starting to get a little bit excited now because I'm thinking, you know what? Back on the trail, baby. Back on the
Yeah,
trail.
yeah,
Woo! Here we go. I'm starting to get excited again. But then, New York is like New York is fucked right now. I mean, they're dealing with like so much. I mean, like, whoa. Like, how do you even? I don't even know.
yeah. It's gonna be hard work. But you know what? I know a lot of people. I know a lot of Yang Gang, at least from New York. So, and he can really help them out a lot. So that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, Nell's talking about coming to New York City, man, but I don't want to have to come there and quarantine and then get all y'all's coronavirus down there, man. Y'all got more coronavirus and y'all know what to do with it. Y'all can keep that shit. I'm up here in Vermont.
Yeah, Iowa is pretty bad. I mean, we don't have the people, but we got a lot of people that are just recently realizing it's a real thing. I guess. I guess that's what
What?
we say.
You mean that the only reason that more people are realizing that it's a real thing is because we're doing more testing?
Yeah, that's probably true.
Isn't that Donald Trump's line to everything? He's
Yeah,
like, the reason we have so many more coronavirus cases is because we're doing more
we're just
testing. No,
testing
it's
more.
because we
Yeah,
have more coronavirus, dumbass.
yeah. It really surprised me that he didn't take it more seriously after he got it, but maybe he just didn't get it that bad. I don't know, but
Are you saying he should have got it a little bit worse to make him a believer?
maybe, maybe, but like I got it, and I was not. I mean, it was kind of bad. Not I didn't go to the hospital or anything, but I mean, just the fact that I couldn't taste my food for a month was so horrible. Like I love to eat, and I mean, it was just awful. Just that little part. Like I don't want anyone to experience that. So anyway, and then I mean, when I think about the people who are dying, or even if you don't die, like just being that sick or having to, have heart problems or lung problems for a long time because of it, or being out of work for a month because of it. I mean, all that stuff matters, even if you're not dead. So I, I thought he would have a little more compassion for people that were suffering from it because he did, but I guess not.
You
I'm
know,
wrong about a lot of stuff, Russell. I guess I'm just wrong about a lot.
I kind of feel like our country is being run by a bunch of sociopaths. I really do. I mean, like the more time goes on, and I see the things that they actually do, it's just it's very, very frightening. So you know what? I'm all in for Andrew Yang as mayor of New York City from here on out.
Yeah.
Damn it, we got to do what we got to do. Let's go, Yang Gang. Any last words that you want to give the Yang Gang before we get out of here?
I don't know. I'll be praying for him to win if he goes. I think it's really. I mean, I think it's great. He must know he's not going to get a
I
position
like
in the Biden
Andrew Yang.
administration, right? But I gotta say I'm pretty disappointed in Biden for not getting him in the cabinet. Um, I don't know if the reason he's running for mayor is because he just didn't have a chance for the cabinet, or if Andrew decided not to be in the cabinet, which I can't imagine. But it's kind of disappointing. I gotta admit that Biden didn't see him as a important person to have in the government because I really thought he'd be a great Secretary of Commerce. Get the American scorecard in there. I
Oh,
mean,
but he wouldn't have done what the establishment would have wanted him to do, and he would have pushed
sure.
ideas that the establishment doesn't want pushed because it threatens their power structure, and that would be no good. And I wonder if one night, right?
Uh-huh.
I wonder if Andrew and Evelyn were sitting there, and Andrew was like, you know what? That fucking Putz Biden, he is not going to give me a position. You know what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do? You know what? Screw them. I'm gonna run for mayor of New York City, and I'm gonna take it that way. Let's get this party started a whole different way. Maybe that was, and if that was the attitude, then I can get
Yeah.
behind that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he, man, I hope he does a lot of really great things there. I mean, like Nell said, maybe he'll make it work. I mean, can you imagine if he makes a huge difference in New York City? I mean, if he makes a big splash there and really helps people out, I mean, that'll be a story. I mean, that'll be amazing. And I
Fifth was
I
the
think
fifth,
that would help
brother.
him.
If fifth was the fifth, we'd all
Yeah.
be drunk.
Yeah. But I mean,
That's what
I
they
also
do.
can't imagine he's not going to run in 2024. I mean, he if
Don't
he's
say
going to
that.
run for mayor, I don't think.
But you know what? It is possible for him to do that. It is
Yeah, it
possible.
would be. Yeah.
He's not supposed to because you're not supposed to have aims for a higher office.
Yeah.
Take that office. But if he gets to time to run and he's like, well, listen, the country's not where I thought it should be. I can't just sit by and not run. He still can.
Yeah.
And they people do it. You're not supposed to, but there's kind of a way that you can go about it. But to me, he would just look opportunistic. So
Yeah.
I do say, you know what, if you're gonna do it and you're gonna put your heart and soul into it, man, fuck it. Turn New York City into a utopia and let's do it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, man, there's a lot to pray about there. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Stephen, thank you so much for being on here. And you know what? You're actually lucky that our time is running short because I was about to put you on the hot seat for some Christian beliefs and stuff
Oh,
because I wanted to dig into some of the esoteric things because, like I said, that's where I'm very passionate about
yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
a large portion of my upbringing was filled with the Bible and Christianity, and but there's
I
things
would
that
love to.
I could never figure out until I went elsewhere for the answers. And
Hmm.
one of those things is why the Christian church refuses to talk about the Anunnaki, which is clearly in the book of Genesis.
The what?
The
The
Anunnaki,
Anakim or the giants.
the Anunnaki, the race of giants came from the
Yeah.
Anunnaki.
Yeah. You
Okay,
want me
so
to talk about that? I don't really have too much to say. I haven't really done a lot of research on it. It's sort of one of those things that I'm like, I have other things to learn about. I guess. It doesn't bother me, I guess is what I'm getting at. But I could learn what I can and talk to you about it.
well, but see, that's kind of where the crux of it gets, right? Okay, we have all these other things to learn about, and so we never really learn about the roots, and the roots are really where it's all at. That's where all the problems spring forth from, right? Is the roots.
Sure,
So
sure.
while we're trying to address all this other stuff over here, we're not addressing the actual roots of the problem. And so you have to go back to those roots in order to address those problems. But that's a conversation for a whole nother time.
I would love to have it, but yeah, I have not spent a lot of time learning about the race of giants in the Bible. That's for sure.
Oh,
I mean, it's like,
that's just one thing. That's just one of the things. But anyway, it's awesome to have you on here, brother. I appreciate your spirit and the love that you have for humanity. And all I can say is just keep pushing, brother, and we're gonna get this done. You want to shout out your YouTube channel real quick?
sure, Yang Gang Christians. That's YouTube, and check out. Oh, I gotta do a little plug. So I got my Christians for UBI.com, and I'm always looking for people to share why They love UBI. You can just upload a video or record right on the website. And I don't know. I've got about 9 or 10 on there about just people that go on there and say why they support UBI from a faith perspective is sort of the idea, because I'm trying to get a compilation of that and encourage people of faith to support that policy.
That is
So
awesome, brother. Thank you so much for your work. And we will definitely make sure to link those in the description once the
awesome.
video gets done and uploaded and everything.
Cool. It was
Brother,
great
thank
to
you so
meet you,
much.
Russell.
We'll have you. There are a lot of people that are screaming in the chat for a part 2, so we might better have a part 2 here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Maybe I can go on your channel, or you can come back on
Hey,
this
yeah,
channel.
I just had my first interview, so now I know how to do it. Why don't we do
that? Look, I'm on my about my 50th interview, and I
Yeah.
still don't know how to do it. Oh, speaking of which, there is. Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember the name, and I will make sure that y'all are tuning in on Monday at 4 o'clock, because we're gonna have a group on who did a song about Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. And they put out a song about him, and it's kind of blowing up. So we're gonna have them on, and that's gonna be an awesome time.
Right.
Steven, thank you again for being on.
Yep.
We'll see
Thanks,
you on the next one.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Well, there you have it, Yang Gang. We are now about to be the New York City Yang Gang all over the United States, because I have a feeling that the further this goes on, the more we're gonna get pumped up. But I also noticed, if y'all know who Paperboy Prince is, he threw his hat in for New York City mayor as well, and he's one of the Yang Gang. He did it before Andrew, so he kind of didn't know Andrew was going to do this. But I think it's going to be funny seeing Paperboy Prince and Andrew Yang go at it. I don't even think it's going to be a contest. I think Andrew wins that one hands down, y'all. Gang Gang, we love you. Thank you so much for the donations. Thank you so much to our Patreons and for the support that y'all give to this channel. We love you, Yang Gang. See you on the next one. If I can figure out how to end this. See, I don't know how to do it still.